What's going on, YouTube? Metal Complex here, and today I've got another interesting budget battle that we're going to do today. We've got the Ontario Rat Model 1 in D2 steel, the Civivi Backlash, and of course the steel wheel Cutjack, also in D2 steel. I just did the standalone review on the Civivi Backlash, so if you want to check that out, you are certainly welcome to. But I want to compare these three knives because they're very comparable in a lot of ways, but they're also very different in a lot of ways. And in my opinion, they are all champions in the budget EDC world. Now, the Rat 1 and the Steel Wheel Cutjack, of course, have been reigning champions for a very long time. And in fact, I think these two pretty much set the trend and also raise the bar for what to expect in the budget world in terms of knives. You know, the Rat being, I think, the first one in this price range to utilize D2, which is an excellent steel, probably the best steel that you're going to find, in my opinion, truthfully, under the $70 mark right now. You know, I know there's a knife out there that's using S35VN, but that's kind of a dark horse right now. I'm not sure what to think about that. Anyways, for the most part, D2 steel is an excellent steel in this price range. So both the top and bottom knives utilizing that. Now, the Civivi Backlash is utilizing 9CR18 MOV, which it's kind of hard to pinpoint exactly what that is near to. My knife steel composition application is saying that it's essentially 440B with better edge retentive qualities. Online, people are saying it is somewhere between AUS-8 and VG10 in terms of both edge retention and corrosion resistance. I will say 100% for sure that D2 steel is going to have better edge retention and better toughness. It is not going to have as good of corrosion resistance. That's for sure. So I hope that that's helpful for people shopping. You know, if you're like me and you're a steel snob, you want to know that kind of stuff. Now, the overall length of the Rat 1, you know, being the biggest knife, that's going to be an 8.6 inch overall knife. Both the Civivi Backlash and the Steel Wheel Cutjack are going to come in at about 8 inches. Depending on the side, you might see 8.1 inches on the Backlash. But here's what's cool. The cutting edge of the three is extremely similar. You can see there between all three of these knives, we essentially have a 3-inch cutting edge, or just barely over a 3-inch cutting edge. So, you know, as far as that goes, the functional part of each knife is the same. What's different is the overall profile, the deployment mechanisms, the materials, you know, things like that. So let's go over all that real quick. Of course, the Ontario Rat 1 is going to be a thumb stud deployer, and only a thumb stud deployer. It's got about a 0.12, 0.13 stock thickness blade, and it runs on phosphor bronze washers. It is a open body construction liner lock, pillar construction. It's got a multi-positionable clip, so right or left hand tip up or tip down carry, which is great. The Civivi Backlash runs on bearings and is flipper only. Amazing, amazing flipping action. I cannot stress that enough. This is the best flipping action I have ever felt on a knife of this price range by a long shot. You have a left or right hand carry tip, just so we can point it out here, it's a tip up only carry position, right or left hand, which is appropriate for a flipper. I've said this a million times. If you're carrying this in your pocket, you really don't want it tipped down, because if you bump into something, left or right hand, that flipper tab is up against the back seam of your pocket and is more exposed to, well, even underneath your pocket, the material can run into something. If you have it deploy in your pocket like this, it's going to either cut your leg or cut your hand. So that's a great position for, you know, the pocket clip. The Steel Wheel Cutjack is, of course, another D2 steel blade. Flipper running on phosphor bronze. This knife is open body. It's got a backspacer. By the way, so does the Civivi Backlash. It's open body with a backspacer. Also another liner lock running on phosphor bronze. Has pretty good flipping action. In fact, I would call this, before I had handled the Backlash, I would have said that the Steel Wheel Cutjack had the best flipping action, you know, in this price range. It's really good, and you can absolutely flip this thing with no wrist, which is awesome. And keep in mind, This one runs on phosphor bronze. So that is also something to consider. Now, the Rat 1 and the steel wheel Cutjack are using FRN. The Rat 1 has full steel liners, so this is going to be a heavy guy at over 5 ounces, between 5 and 5.5 ounces. The Civivi Backlash is using G10 with full steel liners that come out to the lips, but they are milled out. You can just barely see in there. So that's going to reduce the weight down to about 3.8 to 4 ounces. The steel wheel Cutjack is going to be the lightest, utilizing FRN scales and milled out steel liners that are countersunk. So they do not come out to the lips. They're countersunk into the G10. I wonder if we can get that to where people can see it a little bit better. Yeah. So this is going to be the lightest guy at about 3.5 ounces. So also something to consider. Now, let's talk about which one's going to be able to take more force. That's an easy thing to answer for me. I have beat the crap out of the one on the top, and I've used the one on the bottom. I have not utilized the Civivi Backlash nearly as much, but I can say this. In terms of the setup, you've got full steel liners on the Ontario Rat, and you've got, it just feels more solid. It's running on phosphor bronze. You know, there's more material there stabilizing everything. I think I'm going to give overall durability to the Rat 1, and I think it's by a pretty long shot there. So now some people might disagree with me, and that's perfectly fine. You know, and honestly, I don't have enough, you know, physical evidence to support that. That's just my opinion and my thought based on, you know, what I've handled. So, you know, take that for what it's worth. Now the steel wheel Cutjack, I will be honest, it feels a little bit more flimsy and there's less material supporting everything. It's also the only one that has any play, just left and right, no up and down. It's just got a little bit of play, which kind of supports my idea that it may not be stabilized quite as well as the other two. Again, not a whole lot really in terms of pillars holding this up. It's just my thoughts based on handling it. So, you know, if some of you know, don't want to take that and say, like, oh, that's not really enough to prove anything, you're right. It's really not. It's just my opinions based on handling it. The Civivi Backlash is very solid, locks up solid, everything feels tight, but it does run on bearings. So keep in mind, in terms of a hard use situation, which really hard use is different with every single person. I suppose with dirt and debris and stuff getting in the pivot, phosphor bronze washers are going to be better than bearings for that. The bearings do a decent job of kicking stuff like that back out, but you can get crap in there that's just going to make the action not great. And over time, it can actually, you know, really mess up the functionality of the knife. So keep in mind, you're going to have to take it apart, disassemble it, clean it out, put it back together. That's just going to be a regular thing. Real quick here, I want to talk about, well, I don't need to say real quick. It's going to be a part of the review. I want to talk about each of these knives' cutting performance. So real quick, I'm going to grab a piece of paper and I'll be right back. Okay, we're back and with a piece of paper. Now, I want to point this out. The steel wheel has not really cut anything but paper. The Civivi Backlash has not cut anything. And the Rat is, that is a user of mine, one that I have resharpened. So it's not going to be a perfect, accurate comparison. But I can say this, the Rat is going to be the thickest behind the edge. So it's not going to cut the best anyway. I will demonstrate starting with the Rat, just because I think that's the most fair way to do this. You can see here that it still cuts. You know, the edge that I've got on it is, it's okay. I'm not the best, you know, at sharpening in the entire world. But we do have an edge that is cutting and slicing paper. There is minimal resistance, but resistance is there. Let's do the steel wheel Cutjack. This one has not cut anything but paper. Excellent. Much less resistance than the Rat. Feels really, really nice, and it should be, considering the geometry of the blade. And the Rat's going to be great, too. You know, keep in mind, the Rat is a flat ground blade. There's nothing to get into the cutting path. They've got the thumb studs in a great position, so there's nothing there. Now, I have not cut anything with this yet, so I'm really excited because this one feels to be the thinnest behind the edge. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so these two are close. The Civivi Backlash and the steel wheel Cutjack are close. And you know how the edge, or how perfect the edge out of box is going to be different for everybody. You know, it's going to vary a little bit, but that thing is crazy thin behind the edge. And so is the Cutjack, but I mean, the Civivi is very, very thin behind the edge. It has the least resistance. All three of them slice paper. Really what I'm getting at here is that these are all great budget users, and I think getting too obsessed with exactly how crazy thin each one is behind the edge and how little resistance. All of these are great cutters. You can't go wrong with the performance of any of these knives in terms of the blade geometry. These are all excellent user blade shapes. You have a drop point with a lot of belly that's ground kind of close to a slicer grind on a Hinder or a ZT. You've got a harpoon style drop point blade, almost, yeah, not really a clip point, but it's very very thin tipped at the end with some decent belly. And then you've got another drop point flat ground blade with some nice belly up top. All of them excellent working knives. You know, all three of them are going to be cardboard destroyers, but none of them are really going to be hard use. Maybe a little bit more towards the Rat one there. So that was the first time I've ever done a cutting demonstration on a video. So I hope you guys liked that. I consider myself a professional paper cutter. I know, right? Amazing. Anyways, let's talk about ease of disassembly. Now, I have not taken apart the Backlash, but I can say this. I don't know the shape of the pivot on the inside. I don't know if it's D-shaped. You've got a nice Torx head size on the rear side, and then you've got two body screws on each side holding in the scales and the backspacer. That's it. Same exact kind of setup on the Cutjack. So again, both the Backlash and the Cutjack should be really easy in terms of disassembly. Now the Rat has a bajillion parts on it. They've got a bajillion screws on this side and a bajillion screws on this side. So you're going to have screws running all over the place. And oh god, that was a terrible deployment. I wonder if I can flip this in reverse. Let's try. Nope. All right. Enough of that. You've got 3 screws on the pocket clip, and you know you're gonna have a lot of screws and a lot of parts running everywhere. But really, it's not really that bad. I mean, it's gonna be easy to disassemble and clean out. You know, you're gonna have to deal with cleaning out the bearings on the Backlash. But again, none of these knives are really gonna be that hard to take apart and maintain. They're all gonna be pretty easy. In terms of like oiling the blade, the top and the bottom are D2, so they're not quite stainless. So you're gonna have to, you know, you're going to have to clean them off after you use them. You're going to have to put a light coat of oil on every now and then. You're going to have to be aware of the environment that you're using these knives in. Not so much with the Backlash, but keep in mind, all steels rust. You know, even your N690s or your whatever they're using on the Spyderco Salt, eventually those steels will rust. So, you know, I mean, regular maintenance is a thing that you're going to want to do on all these knives. Sorry if that sounds preachy. Probably most people know that by now, but that is the case with all three. You don't need to worry about it as much with the Civivi. Let's see here. Pocket clips. Now, the only problem I have with the Civivi's pocket clip is this sort of duckbill deal right here that they've got going on. It's going to catch. And I also don't really like that the screws are sticking up underneath the deep carry clip, because it's going to catch the seam of your pants and you're going to have to fight a little bit, but that's not really that big of a deal. You know, let's be honest. The evidence I have of that is exactly what happened with this clip. It sticks up in the same way, and it's just asking to get caught on something, which it did, and it bent out. You can see that on a, actually, I don't know if that's on a previous video. It happened here just recently. Now, I prefer this a lot more. It's not really sticking up quite as much. There's less material there on the very tip to get caught on anything. That's just a nicer setup. I also prefer the overall shape and simplicity of this. I like this, you know, they've just got not really crazy billboarding. It's just the Ontario symbol. And I enjoy that divot there. I will always enjoy that. It's just kind of a mix between Spyderco's clip and Benchmade's clip. I really, really like that. None of these clips are bad. They're just, one is preferable to me, you know. So, and there's a whole world of aftermarket pocket clips, so if you really hate one of them, you can just get a different one. I will say that the Civivi is going to carry the deepest, with about that much sticking out of your pocket on the Cutjack and about that much on the Rat. The Rat's going to stick out the highest, though the Cutjack is going to stick out in about second place, and the Civivi obviously is going to carry the deepest. So that's that. And in terms of pocket clips, that's how that's going to be. In terms of overall aesthetics and what's available for colors, you've got, between the three, you have the standard, what you would expect, OD green, black, and tan available on all of these. Though on the Rat, you have a multitude of additional colors that are available, and they seem to be always coming out with more. The Rat also has an option for a black coated blade, which I think is more like paint. It's not really DLC coating. And also a carbon fiber, which I believe is a laminate, where it's just the top is carbon fiber, or maybe it's like a sticker. It's not true carbon fiber, but if you really like that look, then you can get it on the Rat for a little bit more money. Now, you know, really, the next part of this is going to be the conclusion. And while I always have a really hard time picking one for myself, I will do my best to do that, but keep in mind that everybody's opinion varies, everybody's use situation varies, their knowledge of the internal workings of the knife, that varies, you know, their expertise in sharpening and all that stuff, it all varies. So, you know, I'm going to give my opinion, but really keep in mind that between these three knives, it's not like there's one good one and two bad ones. You're looking at three exceptional knives, and if you choose any one of these, you're correct. You're going to love the knife, and it's going to work really well for you. And ideally, if you can't decide, as I always say, buy all three, decide for yourself, then sell the other two, or better yet, give the other two away to people who are close to you in your life, who you want to share a knife with, or give a good example of an excellent folding knife too. That's always a good idea, and always you know, in my opinion, a preferable way to go. So anyways, next up we will do the conclusion. Okay, so in conclusion, I think this comes down to you know, categorizing these knives is in three different well, categories. If you're looking for the most straightforward cutting tool that's going to take the most abuse and that you can just beat the absolute crap out of without worrying about it, you know, has the lowest required maintenance overall, and is just, you know, you just want to throw it in your truck, you want to throw it in your toolbox, you want to throw it in your pocket, you want to use it and forget about it, and you don't care, I'm going to say the Rat. I think that it has the crown there, and it's going to keep that crown. But not everybody thinks of it like that. So, you know, let's say you enjoy the idea of some of those hard use aspects. You know, maybe you like the idea of phosphor bronze. You like the idea of keeping the gunk out of your knife, keeping your maintenance down, but you still enjoy, you know, a tougher steel with better edge retentive qualities, and maybe you might favor lightweight. Maybe you enjoy, maybe you're a little bit fidgety. Maybe you like to feel the snappy action of a knife deploying. Well, if you fall into that category, then I'm going to say the steel wheel Cutjack is going to be the knife for you. Now, let's say that, you know, hard use is not something, you know, maybe what you're going to use the knife for is simply opening packages, maybe breaking down some cardboard boxes, making simple cuts here and there, you know, just regular light EDC tasks, but you've got a taste for something that's a little bit more refined, and you don't need the edge to necessarily, you know, be razor sharp cutting through while you're cutting through hard materials every day, because you're simply not going to be cutting. Sorry, I had to make another cut there. But anyways, you're not going to be cutting through abrasive materials all the time. I would say the Civivi Backlash is going to be for you, because that's going to run on bearings. It's not going to have, you know, quite as good of a steel, but it is going to be stain resistant. There's going to be less maintenance. It's going to make a better, you know, just general light duty EDC blade. But it's also got really nice looking materials on it, and it's got actual G10, and the blue liners are really great, and plus the fit and finish overall, I'm definitely going to give fit and finish to the Civivi Backlash. I mean, this thing, truthfully, is above and beyond. Compared to the other two knives, the Backlash has far and away the best fit and finish. And it's more in line with what people are expecting from knives in this world anyway. I mean, what's crazy is that the knife world is expanding in a way that, you know, there are more people, more buyers and collectors and users involved. There are more makers out there. Everything's becoming refined. People are expecting more things. And you know, the rat and the steel will are just a little more clunky. The rat, of course, a lot more clunky. The steel will's close, but the Civivi, in terms of action and you know, the way it looks and the way it feels, is just, it's more refined. Now, of course, there's going to be a lot of you out there going, well, look, at its base, these are knives. They're cutting tools, you know, so why the heck would we care about how refined it is in this price range? I just want it to function. Fair thought. Absolutely. Definitely keep that in mind. These are cutting tools. They are meant to cut. So at the end of the day, you know, the novelty of getting a new knife, we all know that feeling. We all enjoy that feeling. It's fun and, oh, it's exciting, you know, and you enjoy it being new and pretty and nice. But eventually, you know, you're either going to sell it or you're going to use it, you know, especially in this price range. And once you start using that thing, it will become a tool. And that's what you're going to expect of it. You're going to expect it to come out of your pocket and cut. Now, what you're going to be cutting and how often you're going to be cutting it, again, it's different for every person. So consider that before you buy something like this, or really anything. Any purchases like that. If you're going to purchase something that is going to be used for a specific task, consider what task and how often, you know. So I don't know. I hope that this was informative. I hoped it helped someone make a decision. Again, all three of these knives are excellent choices. I will likely own my own Civivi Backlash at some point because I really like this knife. This one is going to be given away. I will be doing a video that I'm going to release later today with instructions on how you can win this Civivi Backlash for free. There is no purchase necessary. You do not have to be subscribed to my channel. You don't really have to do anything except for what I'm going to reveal in that video. So if you are interested in winning that knife for yourself, it is brand new and comes with all of its original packaging and has not been used other than cutting the paper that you saw early in this video. If you're interested in that, then stick around and I will reveal how to do that later on in the day. But I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please leave a like. If you'd like to check out my other content, I do, of course, have knives that are either expensive or inexpensive that I do or don't like. So check those out. And if you enjoy all my content, then please subscribe to my channel because there is definitely more coming. Thanks for watching and have a great day.